Hello and welcome to episode what are we on 455 of the Stacey West podcast. And for some reason it all has just gone incredibly wrong from good preparation, because myself and my co-host this evening, whom I will introduce in just a second, have been in the chat for a good 15 minutes going through stuff, and literally at 2 minutes to 7 I've started doing all manner of things that I shouldn't, like Googling who the Lincoln City woman player was sitting along from me at the game on Saturday, which is crazy. So I am your host, Gary, of the Stacey West podcast, and joining me tonight is Chris. How are you?
Oh, very well. Very, very well. Impossible not to be, isn't it? Impossible not to be.
Yeah, I did just get a panicky WhatsApp from you saying what's going on. I thought.
Well, yeah, as you said, we were sat in the green room for a good 15 minutes, chatting and prepping and stuff. And then normally what happens is we press go. You take me out of the room, and then within maybe 5 seconds, the intro starts. And I was just kind of sat there twiddling my thumbs, waiting for it all to kick off, and it didn't start for a good 30 or 40 seconds. I thought I might have pressed a wrong button or something, but we're all good.
No, yeah, I did. I gave it a couple of minutes. I think it was Leah Hardy. I don't know if she does commentary on BBC Radio Lincolnshire. So just to say, obviously that, I have sorted the question which had troubled me. So how has your day been today, Mr. Lemming?
Really good, thanks. Yeah, really good. Got up, a bit of a lie-in after a nice early night last night. Lie-in to this morning. Took my mum out for lunch. That was nice. And got back about 3 o'clock, and spent the last 2 or 3 hours, literally since I got back, just prepping for this evening. And I'll be honest with you, it's been lovely, because for the last few weeks, we're in the midst of an imminent house move, and that plus some work stuff has been kind of all encompassing, and it's felt really difficult to give the time that I normally do to this, and I hate not doing it. So to actually be able to have the time to just do what I enjoy doing has been lovely. I don't know why. Yesterday felt really significant for me. I just loved every second of it. I loved being back in the terraces. I celebrated the goals so much more passionately than I have any time recently. Don't really know why that is. I'll be honest, Friday things are starting to, just life stuff was starting to get a little bit challenging. And then I left the ground on Saturday afternoon with a spring in my step, wide awake. I feel great now. Just feel absolutely great and refreshed. So thank you, Lincoln City. And that's been very helpful on a personal note, as well as for, of course, all of us. How's your day been?
Well, my day's been great. Mum and Mo, which is Dad's wife, came over for some dinner. I cooked the potatoes, and Fee did the fish pie, the cauliflower cheese, the beef pie, the crumble for dinner. But, so I played my part. The potatoes were great, by the way. So that was good. After going back to yesterday, it was really strange, because like when I'm in the media, I do celebrate the goals. But when you're away, you certainly can't all that much. You kind of have to go, yes, but then you're writing about them quick. You're kind of working. That's what you're doing. You're basically at work, aren't you, when you're there? And I must admit, yesterday, certainly second and third goals it was hard, incredibly hard not to. And look, every game we're coming up and we're saying, this felt different, or this felt seminal, or this felt really big, really. But yeah, I think this one probably did, just purely because it was another one on that run that we've been looking at and going, if we get, what did I say? If we get 7 points from these 5 games, or 8 points from these 5 games, we'll do well. And we've got 12 from those 5 games now, and the gap keeps
15.
getting bigger. 15? No, because Huddersfield was the 5th game. So Blackpool, Cardiff, Exeter, Stockport, and then Huddersfield. So we've got 12. Could still be 15, of course, and we're going to really enjoy. If any Huddersfield fans are coming in, we're going to really enjoy slagging you off a little bit later. Not you as fans. I'm sure you're all lovely people, unless you were the ones at Port Vale, and then yes, you are going to get a little bit of a stick later on this podcast. It's nice. And the thing is, we normally do the banter and all that sort of stuff, don't we, beforehand? And we talk about how funny things have happened. Now we've been in Germany and people have pooed themselves or whatever. We go into we don't normally go into that. No, actually, that's a story we haven't told on the podcast. Thinking
Oh,
about
yes.
it.
Oh, does that mean I've got permission to tell everyone about that story now?
No. So but we normally do that, and then like we've come into this one, and now it seems like it's football, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like football has to take over. Like, so yesterday, I went to my friend Ross's in the evening. Not a big football fan. He's lad Deacon, who's 12 is. Not a big football fan. There was another guest there, and he wanted to talk about football. And we talk about Lincoln loads, and even like my friend Ross is going, so if they go up, will they be playing the really big teams? And I'm like, well, our Spurs are a really big team, or West Ham. It's pretend. And then today, like my mum and Mo come, and mum's partner Mel is a Liverpool fan. First thing when we sit down, we've seen you on ITV. Yeah, I've seen on television. Or how are you doing? Well, you're going up. Everything is around football. Everywhere you go. I stuck around last night after the game, not for the interviews because I get them online. I just hung around. I just kind of wanted to be around people. I wanted to be around Lincoln City people. I went in the media room. I chatted to Chris and Alan Long and the guys in there. I come out. I saw my mate Andy Brown. I just saw like all sorts of different people, and it's just infectious, isn't it? Just infectious. Emily waving at you in the intro as well. Very good. Yeah. What else do you talk about? There isn't anything else at the minute, is there? There isn't anything else. You're moving house or whatever, but it's football's first and foremost, surely.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, like
Complete.
huge kind of life event for me. My mum has been incredibly supportive for it. All we spoke about for a couple of hours, it was out in town earlier, was football. And she's not a massive football fan. I mean, she had no choice when I was growing up, and it's all I had an interest in. And she was carting me around the country playing, but doesn't really have a huge interest in like following the sport. But she's taken an interest. She found herself in the mailbox watching it on telly, both last week and yesterday, apparently, even though she has no interest at all. And that's definitely not a bar that my mum would normally frequent. Yeah, and it's all we were talking about. Didn't talk about the house at all for 2 hours, having a lovely dinner with my mum. And yeah, it's because it takes over everything, but also it kind of filters into everything because it's the people that don't always have a huge interest that it grabs, and that's what builds a club. That's what makes it feel special. We felt it under the Cowleys, didn't we? Let's be honest. Like the whole city had that unity. The whole city was on the crest of a wave. I honestly never thought we'd feel that again. I thought we've had that success, and then it was that got us where we are, and now we're kind of enjoying the work of our labour, if you like. But it's exactly the same, if not bigger, in terms of just how invested everybody is, even people that aren't as it's not kind of interwoven in their very fibers as it maybe is for people that maybe listen to us and watch this. But it's just, that's a very long-winded way of saying it's just really good, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's still going on as well, isn't it? It's not just long-winded; it's like being extended as well. So yeah, that's good. No, I was going to say the thing is when we came out of the National League, it's hard, isn't it, for a neutral to go, oh, so who are you going to be playing now? And we go, oh, like Newport, and Port Vale, and Northampton, and really, I didn't realise they had football teams. But now people go, oh, who might you play? And when you start saying the Spurs angle actually is brilliant. I don't think for 1 second we'll be playing Spurs, but that angle's actually brilliant for us because it feels cheap, when people are going, oh, and you could play Spurs next season, because it kind of devalues us, as in Spurs have got to go to Lincoln, but also it hooks like people, oh, I've heard of Spurs, even the armchair wankers that sit there and just watch Sky Sports know of Spurs, like, oh, the Spurs fans were singing about you. Suddenly we're not, it's not like we're little old Lincoln who have beaten Burnley in the FA Cup, which was brilliant. It's like, it's that serious prospect that, in a couple of games' time, bar a crash, we could be going toe-to-toe with some of the biggest clubs in the country. And even like we talk about it, Norwich, QPR, Stoke. I know it sounds stupid to say Bristol City, but just big teams, bigger teams. And nothing is sorted yet. So we're getting carried away a little bit here. We've just been on a 20-game unbeaten run that's been, 16 wins and 4 draws? Or is it 15 wins and 5 draws?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. 16 wins, 4 draws in 20 games unbeaten. Absolutely incredible.
The run under Danny Cowley, which was phenomenal and brought us the League Two title, was 19 unbeaten. And I think that was 9 wins and 10 draws. Yeah, it's just
a bit different this time around.
Different gravy,
obviously. But
comparison is the thief of joy. I don't want to take away anything from Danny Cowley and Lincoln City 2018-2019. But it's Lincoln City 2025-2026. We're talking about Lincoln City versus Stockport County from Saturday, the 14th of March, 2026. And Chris Lamming is really eager to talk to you for about 25 minutes about the opening 10 minutes. So we're going to make him cut it down. He can't talk for any longer about the opening 10 minutes than the opening 10 minutes lasted. That's one fair rule. And also, because we don't want to just hear your voice all the time, I need the right to chip in every so often. But you have prepared this meticulously. I did some preparation for this earlier. I sat down and poured myself a glass of Pepsi. You have done several hours worth of work, and it is time for the listeners and the viewers to have the benefit of your infinite wisdom before Lincoln City sweep you away from the podcast permanently as a commentator.
Oh, don't be silly. Well, I suppose before we do that, though, what we normally talk about is the lineup, and we haven't done that yet. So Ryan only kept his place in the team so that's back-to-back starts for him now. He started on the left. I thought with Riley Towler starting at left back in the 4, maybe we'd see Rico Hackett playing on the left-hand side to have that natural width on the left without Reach being there. But no, he was on the right as usual. One came in. But I just wanted to mention our fast start, really, because that first 10 minutes we were blistering, absolutely blistering. I think we had 5 shots in the first 10 minutes, 3 in the first 4 minutes. It was really, really good. I like the PPDA stat, Gary, as you know, which is
sounds like a drug.
Does it? I wouldn't know. Passes allowed per defensive action. So basically, that means how many passes do you allow the opposition have until you can win the ball back? Now, the average for this game for us was 17 passes that we allowed Stockport to have before we won it back. There was actually a half an hour spell from 45 to 75 where it was up as high as 32. For the first 15 minutes of the game, it was 6. So we smothered the ball. We didn't let them out at all. So I suppose point number 1 was just such a fast start, which was brilliant. Point number 2, before we talk about the goal itself, is actually the build up to the goal. This is going to be something that has become synonymous with what we've spoken about quite a bit recently. I think we delved quite deeply into this when we spoke about Plymouth in terms of how we generated the goals against Plymouth, because it doesn't just come from a corner and a scramble in the goal mouth. I mean, it does, but there's some elements to that which are interesting and useful to point out. Firstly, the whole sequence starts with a diagonal ball from Riley Towler across to the right-hand side, of the pitch. It was a beautiful ball. Yeah, he's definitely got that in his locker as Riley.
Lewis Monster-esque.
It was. Yeah, it was. We generated a 2v1 situation on the far side, which is likely when you're playing against a 3-5-2, which Stockport were. Moylan drives in toward goal, tackled slightly, and then Ivan Varfolomiev absolutely steams in to win the ball back ahead of the Stockport midfielder. I can't remember who it was exactly, but he nipped in front of him. He had no worry about what was behind him. Didn't worry about what if I miss this tackle and they get caught on the counter. His only thought was, I'm going to get there first and keep us on the counter, keep us on the front foot. Don't let the opposition settle. Don't let them get out. So that was step 1, was getting it forward to create a 2v1, be direct, drive towards goal. And when the ball is intercepted, you counter press and don't let the opposition out. Worked to Colin McGrandles on the right, who had then replaced Moylan in that little sequence. So we still had a 2v1. Back to Deriqua, and he swings the ball in. Rob Street has no right to get there first. He's kind of behind the ball, but he makes it incredibly difficult for the Stockport defender to get a clean contact on that. So it bundles to the edge of the box, of which Jack Moylan unleashes what I think can only be described as a thunder bastard towards goal to draw a smart save from Corey Adai to then win the corner. So yeah, that's point number 2. Was it's not just the corner, it's how we generated the opportunity to have the corner, which was actually our second corner in I think 10 minutes or so. So yes, before I deconstruct the corner, which I have done, and I really enjoyed doing it because we had the goal scored at that end with a beautiful view from the TV camera perched on top of the South Park stand. So it allowed you to be able to delve into it in a bit of depth. But yeah, that's point number 1 and point number 2 done, Gary. And this is my contractually obliged pause to allow you to say something.
Did you know that Corey Adai's first job was changing the bulbs in floodlights without a ladder? That's how tall he is. He was massive. You notice he was
Yeah,
nearly
didn't he?
banging his head on the crossbar. Like as soon as I saw him, the first thing I said, I was sat with Don Pixley from the Press Association, and I said to him, he won't be able to get down to make a save. And then I think he got down to make a save. I think it might have been the Jack Moylan chance. And Dom's turned to me and he said, "Well, you said that he wouldn't get down and make a save." And then we're going to come on to the fact we scored in a minute. And Dom turned to me and said, "And you said it was going to be 1-0. Have you got any more great predictions?" No, the Riley Towler cross court was what caught my eye, the Riley Towler ball. I think Riley Towler has slipped under the radar this season because he was a makeshift left back and everyone was going, he's not really a left back. And then he goes out the team and you're going, well, he's not going to replace Sonny Bradley. And he comes on when we go 2 or 3 at the back, which can be, it's not negative, but it means that he comes on at a time where we're trying to protect a lead. And sometimes the work that you do when you're protecting a lead, you're watching the balls come in and they're clearing them or they're kicking them away or whatever. But you're not always seeing who's doing that. Maybe sometimes when you're watching a game because you're a little bit nervy. But I think that he's been a really solid component of this entire season without ever being the one that's gone, he was outstanding today. And fair play to him for that. Great ball, absolutely superb ball, which led to a corner. And so Mr. Lamming with a B, according to Daz, which makes you sound like a young farmer, which I quite like. I'm not like, I don't particularly like or dislike young farmers, just in case there's any young farmers watching. Talk to us about the goal, because I didn't, at the time, I watched it and thought, I'm not 100% sure what the hell's gone on there. And I watched it back and gone, well, that's not a goal mouth scramble.
Correct.
That's a well orchestrated goal. So you explain to people why while we get your application for chief scout in.
Oh, that's the dream. Anyway, well, Dave Challoner mentioned in his post-match press conference that they set up on defensive corners with an element of zonal marking. Not all zonal, but a mixture of zonal and man marking, which lots of teams do. We do it to an extent as well. But what that means is that if we've got every player forward, which we have, we didn't leave anyone back. We had a couple on the edge of the box, and that's that. That means there's going to be some players who are not directly marked at the point that the corner is being taken. So you've got 2 or 3 free players, or if not more. Now, from a defensive team's perspective, what that means is you are going to prioritize the biggest threats. You're going to man mark the players who you think are most likely to win first contacts, and you want to try and stop them winning first contacts. But that also means there's going to be some players which maybe you don't see as big a threat, who are not going to be directly man marked at that initial point. Enter Jack Moylan. So Jack Moylan's role is to pin Carl Wootton. Carl Wootton has been placed right in the middle of the 6-yard box, clearly there without a man marking job, so that he is then free to go and attack the ball when it's delivered in there. He's done it countless times this season. That's his job. Jack Moylan is backing into Carl Wootton, so he cannot move from his position. If anything, Jack Moylan, you could say, is actually marking Carl Wootton despite it being an attacking corner. Also, the ball is clearly delivered from Rico Hackett away from the zone that the 4 zonal markers are placed in. So there's a couple near post, one with Wootton and one further back in the 6-yard box. But there are 4 players who are not man marking anybody. And the ball is delivered nowhere near them. So there's no free header, which is good. So firstly, Moylan pinning the player that would be free to go and attack it. Hackett hitting an area which is clearly targeted to go into. Because sometimes we try and whip it in at the near post, sometimes we go far post. This was a little bit kind of closer to the penalty spot. That is clearly, after looking at this in a bit of depth, that is clearly planned for. It also means that the defender, I think it's Hills, but I could be wrong, that does get that first contact on. He's had to come a really long way from his zone to then go and get that first contact on the ball. Doesn't get it clearly. Sonny Bradley then hooks the ball towards goal. Ryan One is then, similar to how Jack Moylan was on Carl Wootton, is then pinning the Stockport defender nearest the ball. One has no intention of trying to get on the ball himself. He's just stopping the Stockport player get the ball, which allowed Jack Moylan to go through and poke home. So you kind of create your own luck in a way. But in that whole sequence, from that diagonal ball from Riley Towler, which started the attack, we've mentioned players that have had direct impacts in the ball eventually ending up in the net. Towler if I follow me, of Doriqua Street, McGrandle's House, Bradley, One and Moylan. Even if they didn't directly touch the ball, every single one of those players, from the point that Riley hit that diagonal ball to start our attack, had a direct involvement in the ball eventually ends up in the net. And I just think that is just typical Lincoln City this season, isn't it?
Yep, very good. And that was about 10 minutes as well. So I'll give you your credit there. Yeah, I've just watched the goal back. Brad Hills, I mean, I wrote about it as well, so kind of knew. Brad Hills is the man I think that makes the first contact, and he's also the player that then gets pinned by Ryan One. So it's actually quite clever by One, because he's not on the guy when the balls come in. It's a job that he's then doing when the ball comes back in, when it's recycled. And we're only talking, that entire sequence that we're talking about there is a matter of seconds. And so it looked like a scruffy, scrambled goal, but it was anything but, really.
Yeah, there were rehearsable elements of that. That's what's so great about set pieces, is like football's such a fluid game, but a set piece is rehearsable. You can practice it and you can set up. And there are certain values, and not values, maybe is not the right word, but certain attributes maybe that we have, certain little things that we do that everyone clearly knows what their job is, that allow us to create those opportunities to allow Jack Molen to poke the ball home. It's not a mistake that we scored 23 goals from set pieces this season, scored 30 last season, the most in Europe, I think. Like that's not by accident. And it's the detail, these little details often are the difference. And you heard Dave Challoner in his post-match press conference yesterday saying, actually, we played all right on the whole, but there was a couple of the finer details we're missing. That's what they mean. It's those little tiny things sometimes can make all the difference. But we put a lot of time and effort into those details to allow us to get a foothold in the game, get ahead, and then allow us to manage it from there.
Now, I actually think that Stockport also put more thought into some of those details than some of the opponents that we faced this season at Sincil Bank. I think that's why they felt like a more formidable opponent. We're probably going to have to skip most of the first half, to be honest, now, and kind of move on towards the second. And that's probably not doing anybody an injustice, because it wasn't a poor first half, but it was a typical Lincoln 1-0 up first half, I think. But Stockport did have one or two little moments. We're going to talk about Jack Diamond, one or two little things where they'd clearly done their homework. And Dave Challoner in his post-match interview was deconstructing several of the goals, and he was explaining exactly what we do well. And it wasn't they like to get the ball in the box, but he was going one further. They like to get the ball into the box. They like to pin you in. They like to deal with the seconds on the edge of the area. It sounds to me like he's a man that has done his homework. And I've got a lot of respect for Dave Challoner for what he's done with Stockport. I think there's a misconception that he's always done it with a really good budget because they've been well backed. But you've still got to do it. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's like with Wrexham, just because Phil Parkinson's done it with a decent budget doesn't mean that he's automatically not as good a manager as some others, because Huddersfield have had a really good budget and they haven't done it. Sorry, Huddersfield. Huddersfield. And other teams as well, Luton, for instance, this season. And one of the little moments I spotted, and I think it's something that I kind of should be mad at, but there's a little bit of me goes, yeah, all right, was their sub, Alafe, when Tom Hamer got a long throw. It was about 10 minutes before half time. And I kept looking, thinking all the subs are gathered there and Hamer's got to go through them. And everybody was quite nice. They stood back. And at one point, Ben House spent about 10 minutes talking to Jack Diamond, Luis Fiorini, and it all. And then Hamer got a throw. And as he's come to the touchline, literally, I've watched Alafe time his walk so that he's almost walking directly into Hamer. He never gets that. He gets within probably a foot, 2 feet of him. And I just thought, you know what? I kind of admire that. Yeah. Because I kind of admire it, because who's been able to deal with the long throws this season? I don't think any team have. It caused panic for Stockport, and their goalkeeper is literally, I've looked at the official classification from the NHS. He's a giant. That's not fact, but it is a fact. And they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with it. And you've got teams like with our set piece. Who was it? Was it Cardiff? Just moved everybody out the area. Well, we'll stick 11 up we'll stick players up on the touchline. So people are trying to deal with it. And one way to try and deal with it is, well, let's stop it at source. And I admire it. And I would like to have seen him booked for it as well. But I was never going to be there shouting and getting angry at him. So the first half happens. And it was like one comment, I think, which is fair, was, well, it does feel like the lunchtime kickoff by half time. And that's probably credit to us. We're looking to stifle the game. They didn't have a lot of, they've got a lot of good players, by the way, on the pitch. Ben Osborne, you and I were talking about off air, has had 3 seasons Premier League football in the same period that we've been in League One with Sheffield United. You've got obviously Wootton. I really like Sidibe, the lad who they signed from St Johnstone. He was kind of stocky and quick, and he was playing off the shoulder. Dacres Cogley, when he was playing right wing back, was at least forward thinking, but was a little bit poor with his execution. But they've got really good players, good technical players, quick players. So they came out the second half, and I thought they really did kind of pin us in, didn't they? And for a while, without creating a huge amount, they had a lot of the ball. And then George Wickens makes a great save. I have written about it several times and said it's from a Kyle Wootton header. Having looked back, it's not. It's from a Ben Osborne shot. People have called it a worldie. He got man of the match. My understanding is for making that save, not for assisting or anything, but for making that save. We hit the bar. It felt like we were always dangerous, but we were just literally being smothered until we could find a little way out. And as we say, with Rob Street hitting the bar, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, from just I suppose to finish off in the first half, like Stockport had 307 accurate passes in the first half. A lot of teams don't have that in the whole game, but only 36 of them were into the final third. In the second half, they had fewer passes, but so many more into the final third. Like the territory was much higher. They did pin us in. I felt we looked a little isolated up top at times. Both of our wingers were forced to have to defend deep. And I mean, they do it. They go back when they have to because it's a team game. That's what we do. We defend stoically. But from a tactical perspective, it then meant there's just a really big distance for them to get forward on the counter-attack and then support the striker. So at times, it looked a little uncomfortable, I would say. And I think as we are normally really good at like defending our own box, making those first contacts, and we still did that. But maybe it's just a feeling. But I
Good
felt...
question.
Yeah,
Sorry,
go on.
No, you
I was
go
going to
first.
say, I felt slightly more nervous in the second half against Stockport than I have at home for a very, very long time. And I just think they're good, to be fair. I think they're a really good team. And first half, they were what a lot of teams have been against us, which is good on the ball, look pretty, don't create a lot. But second half, I thought they were, without that much clear cut, had a lot more threat. And I think that's quite simply because they are a good team. And if we weren't top of the league right now, and we were a mid-table team or a playoff chasing team, as we all expected to be, yes, I know. They're the sort of team who I think we'd be really fearing. But we had a 1-goal lead to protect as well, which helped.
Do you think Ryan One looked a bit jaded, a bit tired?
I think a few of the lads did. You know what was interesting? Joe made a point to this, the guy sitting next to me. At the start, we were just debating whether Stockport not having a game for a couple of weeks would be a good thing or a bad thing. And I think certainly the first 10, but particularly the first half, I felt we looked like a team that was on the crest of a wave, on the back of 2 big wins, confident. And Stockport maybe looked a little rusty. There was a few misplaced passes. And then there's the second half wore on, it looked like one team was fresher than the other, and one team had played a lot of football recently and had some long trips. So not to single out Ryan One, I think as the game wore on, we did start to look a little bit fatigued. You could tell that we'd played those energy-sapping games and energy-sapping trips that has happened recently, I think.
Let's talk about Stockport's goal. Inevitable. As soon as the sub-board went up and I saw Jack Diamond, I would think on a personal level, he enjoyed scoring at Sincil Bank, irrespective of whether they won the game or not. But technically, you had kind of spotted what his job was, and Dave Challoner alluded to what his job was with our marking setup. And he's stolen back post, looks unmarked, nothing Wickens can do with the cross or the header. And when it went in, I must admit, I got a horrible sinking feeling. I haven't felt that way. For 5 games because we haven't conceded a goal. But it was a moment where I think the goal goes in, and there's also a little bit of a fear that is this it? Is this where the run comes to an end?
Yeah, maybe so. I suppose I think it was a really good change by Dave Challoner. So they played a 3-5-2. They haven't played 2 up top for weeks and weeks and weeks, but they went 2 up top. And he mentioned in his post-match press conference they did it primarily to try and have more players in the middle of the pitch so we couldn't win those quick turnovers centrally. It did work, by the way, and we didn't have anywhere near as many recoveries as we usually do in those central areas. But they started with a back three and a right wing back of Dacres Cogley, who then went to a right centre back, and Diamond came on. So it didn't actually change shape, but changed personnel with a very different profile of player. And Diamond obviously very, very forward thinking, looked really, really sharp actually when he got on the ball. But also when we're playing in our back four, we like to funnel the ball out wide. So we like to make sure teams can't attack down the middle. And we try and keep an extra man in front of our defensive line if we can, so that we can then counter press and get on the counter attack. Now, what that means is you're going to have to leave someone free. So we usually leave the player that's on the other side of the pitch, furthest away, unmarked in those moments, which is why you often see teams try and hit big switches against us quite a lot. What it did mean, those that with a really good deep ball that was just too far away for Wiggins to come out and get, it allowed Jack Diamond to come in on the blind side and come in unmarked and hit a good header home. That's, credit where it's due. Good goal. I don't think it was anyone's individual fault. It was a really good deep cross, and he's timed his header really well. It's more he's timed his run well to be able to go in there unmarked and meet the ball as it comes in. So but I also got that same sinking feeling. Not that I thought the run would end or that we were going to lose or anything, but I thought we could. But it was just more of probably just I forgot what it felt like to concede.
And I think what we actually did after that was we defended very, very well. And Michael Scabala has often spoken about kind of defending the frame, block the frame, all that sort of stuff. And I think Diamond scored on 68 minutes. You think, we've done well up till that point. They had been the better side. Between 68 and 80 minutes, they had one chance. So they at that moment, that's where you want you've got your fans up. Their fans were loud. Pity they didn't sell the end out because it was nice to have had another 10,000 and the home end was sold out. But that's that. The Diamond gets another chance with 10 minutes to go. Exactly the same, isn't it? But this time he volleys it wide, and it just really felt like they were building the momentum. But there was always that sting. There was always that kind of, dare I say, Lincoln Cityism. And I don't think we've said that for years. Under Mark Kennedy, you knew if you conceded the first goal, we'd never look like scoring. We always look like scoring. Whether it's a set piece, whether it's a long throw, corner free kick, whether it's... And they're not really counter-attacks often. They're kind of breaks. A counter-attack for me is when an attack breaks down and you immediately spring an attack. Whereas what we do, and watching back, by the way, some of the goals, I watched all 18 goals, the first goal every player has scored this season. And it's surprising how many of them come from like a Wickens with the ball at his feet, putting the ball forward for a flick on. Well, that's not a counter-attack. It's not a set piece. And that's kind of, a route back into it as well. So I thought that we showed a lot of character, and not in creating chances and not in like being under the cosh, just in conceding that goal, them having a bit of momentum, and us just kind of being able to deal with that, just keep our heads. Nobody's heads dropped. We made the changes. The players that came on had plenty to do. There was lots of hard work. It was just, maybe that's what title winners do. Maybe that's what teams that get promoted have to do. But it was, I think this is the closest I've come since we lost to Exeter, where I thought we might not win this game. Bear in mind, I was putting bets on every week, us conceding late on, right up to Wickham. And then I've stopped doing it now because now I think we're never going to do it. I thought that was really interesting. We'll move on to the goals because we're 33 minutes in already. I would have been happy with a draw. If on 87 minutes you'd said you can have this at 1-1 now, will you take it? I would have gone, yes, I'll take it. But Tendai Darikwa did not do that. And it's a big ball again from Wickens. It's not an assist from him. It's a big ball forward, nodded down. Darikwa, stroke of luck, one might say. It's not the crispest, the most venomous of hits. Venomist? I'm sure that's a word. But a wicked deflection off Ethan Pye. I'm not even sure it's a deflection. I think he's trying to clear it and kind of sticks his leg out and sends it past the die. And for me, well, sometimes... when you're top of the table or when you're hunting promotion, you do get that little bit of luck. That's a lazy trope that people roll out when teams get a little bit of luck, but we have had a bit recently. And it's 2-1 in a game that arguably at that stage, 1-1 might have been fair.
Yeah, I think 1-1 would have been fair, but I think there's a couple of points. Again, it's not just, we scored and it was a deflection. It was, why did we have the opportunity in the first place? And that's tactical. And that's Michael Scabala who needs some credit for this because we changed to a back three again. On 75 minutes and mentioned PPDA earlier. Now, of course, we wanted to keep Stockport at arm's length. We weren't pressing as high in the last 15 minutes as we were at the front in that first 10. But I think it's really interesting to see what it is in the 30 minutes from half time until we made the change. The PPDA was 32. So that's 32 passes that we allowed Stockport to have before we were able to win the ball back. That's too high. Even if you're keeping a team at arm's length, that's too high. From 75 minutes onwards, it went all the way down to 10 again. And that was just a shape change. And I mentioned earlier, our wingers were forced so deep because Stockport was so dominant. They had a lot of the ball that allowed the time for them to transition into their kind of in possession shape. Both wing backs high, ball sides outside centre back coming to join the attack. They kind of had a front seven with their 2 3/8s joining the front two as well. So both of our wingers were just deep all the time. So even though sometimes going to a back three seems defensive, sometimes it actually helps from the other end of the pitch as well. So but Riley Taylor went back into left centre back. Reach came on at left wing back, and we then just had an extra player actually that didn't need to be in the back line. We were basically playing at the back six for the first 30 minutes of the second half. We then had a back five, which meant that's one extra player that can go and apply some pressure higher up the pitch. Also means that Tendai Dariqua is now our width on that right side and is going to be higher up the pitch. Just so happens it was in that time frame that he found himself far higher up the pitch, and he would have been able to, without settled possession, gets a shot away as he does regularly. And yeah, bit of luck, deflection, goal. But again, credit to Michael Skubala, because yes, we regularly change shape to a back three to see games out, but it isn't always defensive. Sometimes it's actually to take the pressure off your defence, and absolutely was yesterday. I'm not saying that we necessarily deserve to go on and score 2 goals from that, but I think it was telling that we stopped Stockport being as threatening from that point, which then gave us the opportunity to go and do what we do. And you mentioned those counter-attacks. I think Opta would analyse them as fast breaks. We've had the second most of those in League One and scored the most goals from them, just so you know.
Very good. They still weren't giving up. There was a very brief moment where they've gone back forward. Dave Challen has picked it out. They've done exactly what they've done for Jack Diamond's goal and Jack Diamond's missed chance. Ben Osborne's got on the left-hand side. He's whipped a great cross in. And this time, Jack Diamond has stood on the edge of the area rather than running into the space that he's known to attack. That's allowed George Wickens to get hold of the ball. He's launched it forward. And then I think you could say there's a comedy of errors, because Dacris Cogley just walks away from the ball. You watch it back. He walks away from the ball and says to Brad Hills, you deal with Alfie Lloyd. Alfie Lloyd, whose cameo was hugely impressive, and impressive in that everybody loves a player that runs a hell of a lot. Yeah, if you're a player and you want to get fans on side, chase everything. Doesn't matter if he's any good or not then. Jake Sheridan, everyone loved him. He wasn't great for us, but he'd chase everything and people go, he's a trier. But Alfie Lloyd's got a bit of strength about him. He's basically like a slightly more coherent Justin Abikru in my mind. And I know that there's a train of thought that Justin Abikru had a very high ceiling, and we're not sure what Alfie Lloyd's ceiling is. And that's not anything official. But I really like Lloyd, and I think that he looks stronger and he looks less complicated in that he kind of knows what he's doing and he knows what his role is. He's done really well to stay on his feet. And that is almost the same as, was it Rob Street against Blackpool, where he's got away and he does really well to stay on his feet when he could have been fouled as well. And I like that, I respect that. I don't want to see players going down in the area when they can score a goal. Lloyd's finished really well. And dare I say, the look on his face when the goal goes in, for me, it's like the Christmas that my parents bought me an Amiga when I wasn't expecting one, a Commodore Amiga. I just remember opening that present and it was just pure, unadulterated child joy. And that's what Alfie Lloyd had on his face. I look at the images. He looks like a puppy who's just been given a bag of treats. There's just something about the look on his face that makes me want to adopt Alfie Lloyd. Because he enjoyed the goal so much. It was absolutely beautiful. Emily always says she watches the celebrations. I look at the pictures on his face. He wanted that goal. He's as committed to this cause as anything. Michael Skubala said after the game, he trains like he's one of ours. I thought that was a really interesting point, by the way, to make, because you would imagine that's the case with all players. But when he say it, a little bit different. But it put the icing on the cake, the cherry on the top of the icing, whatever the drawn out simile metaphor is. But it was a beautiful moment, I think, in a season packed full of beautiful moments.
Yeah, exactly that. I was so pleased for him. So pleased for him. And I've been honest, I think I felt like he did when he scored, because it was a bit of an unexpected one, but it was also like, it was a goal made by him, wasn't it? Yeah, Wickens has launched the ball forwards, clearly aimed to hit an area, but like, he's had to really battle for it. It's his sheer endeavour and work rate and strength. And sometimes it is as simple as this. The cliches are a thing. He wanted it more than Brad Hills.
Yep.
And he got his just desserts, and it was a brilliant moment. So yeah, game was definitely over at that point. Yeah, and
he wanted it a lot more than Dacris Cogley. That was
certainly. Well, like, you know what? In fairness to him, I think what he was trying to do, he was trying to be in a position so that if and when Hills wins the ball, he's got an option to head it to, so we can then get him back on the attack again. But obviously, Hills didn't win the ball, and then he was made to look a little bit silly.
Yeah, he was. And Dacris Cogley, a player we were linked with, a player who impressed me at Bolton, but generally had a really horrible game. I think he got away on the right in the first half, and you think this looks dangerous, and he puts it straight into the keeper's arms, stood on the post, and you can just see, like, he looks like a player to me who is just not happy where he is. And that's no disrespect to Stockport. I'm sure I'm wrong about that, but he just did not look happy at all. So we win 3-1. Bolton didn't get their last-minute winner at Rotherham, which was phenomenal. I was actually sitting watching the live feed as everyone was leaving the ground in the media suite, watching the Bolton game. When they didn't get it, it's 15 points. That is 4 wins, I think, now, isn't it, that we need to be sure. Or, to put it another way, which has been mentioned somewhere in the chat, we just need to match Bolton's results for 4 games.
Bloody hell, yeah. When you put it like that.
I know. When you put it like that, you kind of... And you know, I mean, obviously then there's the title run. But, I mean, Bolton's next 2 games are Port Vale and Doncaster. And after that, it's Stevenage at home and Plymouth away. And then Stockport at home and then Cardiff away. Cardiff away is Easter Monday, I think. My feeling is... I'm going to say it. My feeling is that Lincoln City might be promoted over Easter.
Be nice, wouldn't it? I said it out loud yesterday for the first time, and Ben clipped it and put it, I think, on YouTube.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, it was. I've been so reluctant to do it. I couldn't help it yesterday. I was in such a good mood yesterday. It was such a lovely moment. Just there, had a great time yesterday, and it's weird because we had to suffer a little bit for 60 odd minutes in that game, and but weren't counted.
Huddersfield, Rotherham, Doncaster potentially, Wimbledon and Reading are our next 5 games. So we need to match Bolton's results, or we need to get the same points haul from that 5 as they get from the 4. And that would assure promotion. And then we can go into matches against Orient, Stevenage, Wickham and Port Vale, potentially battling for the title.
Still doesn't feel right saying it, does it, out loud?
No. I think it might be time to take a commercial break, and then we will come back and talk to everybody shortly. I haven't stopped that on the 10 either. I've stopped it on 4306.
Are you feeling okay?
Right. So we're not gonna go through everybody's chats. Joe Wellborn says, don't miss out on Wimbledon. Good Friday. What a Good Friday that could be. Funny as well, because my mate Pete messaged me and said, I think I might have been talking to him. I wasn't talking to him on the phone. But we were saying, it's normally when people were promoted at Easter, they were like the first teams to be promoted or relegated. And that was always like, promoted at Easter, they must be amazing. But that's what it's looking like, isn't it? This is off air. I mean, it'll be live on YouTube and people will be able to view it and clip it up. But it is really beginning to feel now like it's inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, you know where it comes from. Not only the maths, it's the consistency of the performances, and it's the attributes of the squad. Like, they're just always in games. I just can't imagine us having a dip bad enough that we don't do it now, because they do just take one game at a time. They do fight for everything and work for everything and are incredibly organised. Like, even when we're not at our best, we make it bloody difficult for teams, and you can't lose 6 or 7 matches out of 9 in order with those attributes, can you?
Here's another thing for you, right? And one more thing for you to consider, and this won't happen. But imagine Port Vale and Doncaster up to their game and won the next two. We could be promoted on Saturday. Because if they lost their next two and we won our next two, we would then be 21 points clear of them with 7 games to go. And we're talking about Bolton here and not Bradford, to be fair. So as it was pointed out in the chat, that could happen. Or you and I could be here doing a preview for the Port Vale show going, I wish we hadn't opened up in mouths on YouTube on episode 455. Right, should we go back in? Should we get back in what we got? We got Jack Moylan contract and Huddersfield, haven't we?
Yeah, as well, just one little thing that I didn't mention on the main pod about that. Just I didn't notice it. It was quite funny. In this goal celebrations for our first goal on Saturday, when the camera pans to our bench, there's all the high fives going on, and poor Elliot Howe, the first team physio, a couple of high fives, and then was waiting and got completely left hanging.
Oh no! I'll tell you what I wanted to find. Let me find it here. I want to find this. Can I share this for everybody? Just indulge me for a moment, please, people. Just look at that face. Just look at that face. That is unbridled joy, isn't it? That's a Graham Burrell photo. That is just unbridled joy. There's something about it. It's not just a goal celebration. That is literally just. I love it. I love that. Right, we'll come back in. We will come back in on an even number. Hello and welcome back to the second part of the Stacey West podcast, where we are already over schedule. Of course we are, because we've got so much to talk about. And what we have to talk about now is the magic man, Jack Moylan. He opened the scoring on a Saturday. I think that's taken him to 8 league goals. And he only got his first one mid-December. His first league goal came, I think, against Blackpool away when we drew 2-2. I know it did because I've just done an article on it, where he was out wide on the right, cut inside, beat a player, put it in the back of the net, and everyone goes, Jack Moylan's back. Oh, we need to see a little bit more of that. And we've seen a lot more of it, so much so that he's penned a deal until 2030. In terms of saleable assets, we've got a few. We've got Rob Street, saleable. Ivan Volomeyev, you'll notice I said saleable. We've got the likes of Deji Eloweri and Josh Honohan, who may come through. We've got George Wickens. We've got big hopes for. We've got some functional players. But in terms of players that you go, he could fetch some serious money and he could do it this summer, you've got Jack Moylan. Because when you've got goals and assists, unpredictability, he's got that little bit of something. He can dip a shoulder. He can beat players. He's worth taking a punt on Championship clubs at the top end with a couple of million. Might look and go, we can work with that boy. Well, they're going to have to splash the cash, because Lincoln City's days of not letting contracts run down, because you sometimes you don't have a choice, but the days of contracts being run down, players going, we're going to move upwards, have gone, because we're moving upwards. The players are all on board. Jack Moylan until 2030, which means if somebody wants him, it needs to start with a 2 and it needs to have 7 figures. Chris, would you agree?
I think I would agree. Yeah. And with Jack Moylan, we know his qualities, obviously, but it's also, there's a bit of like fanfare around him from other clubs as well, because his highlights reel is really eye-catching, isn't he? Like sometimes, like data scientists will look at players and look at the numbers, and then you can maybe justify certain transfer fees, but you don't really need to do that for Jack Moylan. I'm sure everyone that has seen him from a professional perspective would still do that work. But even from a fan's point of view, he's just, like you say, got that little bit of something special. They call him the magic man for a reason. So just brilliant news. Unexpected news, actually, when it came through, but really, really, really pleased, because one or two things are going to happen now. He's going to be a Lincoln City player for the foreseeable future, or he's now going to make us a significant fee. Win-win situation, either way around.
Somebody's mentioned about him getting a full Irish call-up. I think the only thing going against him in this window is that Ireland are not playing friendlies. I think they've got World Cup qualifiers, and I think it's not likely, or it's less likely, that he gets a call up for something like that. I think if it's friendlies, they're more likely to include him in the squad. However, there are strong rumours that they're talking about calling up David McGoldrick, For me, if they're turning up, if they want to call up somebody that's got a bit of something or unpredictability, is it the 38-year-old that, okay, he's been there and done it, but there's nothing for the future? Or is it, I think he's 23, is it the young man who just seems to conjure up something from nothing all the time? He was out September, October, November. He's out 3 months of the season. He's come back in. And at the beginning of the season, you and I had conversations about Jack Moylan. And it didn't seem certain that he would be starting in the 10 role. We kind of I likened him a little bit to Anthony Scully in that, you wanted him in the side, but it was where were you able to put him in where he could be effective? And last season, let's be honest, a lot of Peter players didn't really shine last season all the time. And Jack was one of those. He was out injured. So, I didn't have him pinned as being the player that had the massive influence this season. But since he's come in, I mean, he's absolutely done that. And now he's fit and flying. It's just, I think the lad has a much, much higher ceiling than Lincoln City will be able to offer him over the next couple of years, even with a championship promotion.
Yeah, maybe so. But I suppose this just makes sense then, doesn't it? The contract extension. Firstly, for Jack's perspective, a reward for some incredible hard work and elevating himself in stature. So I imagine, I don't know the finances, obviously none of us would do, but you'd imagine there'd been a little bit of a bump for him. I don't know what it was on before. I imagine it wasn't probably like guaranteed first team starter wages because he would have been on the same contract, I think, as he was on when we signed him. So I imagine he's probably had a little bump, putting it in line rightly with other players that are similar to him in terms of like starts. But also, if he moves on, the hugely long contract's going to give us a justification for asking for a much higher fee. Or best case scenario for all of us is we get him till 2030 in the team and been a brilliant player for Lincoln City.
Very quick question from the floor because I think it's pertinent. Steve Jolland says, what's going on with Fred? Honest answer, don't know. But the vibes that, and I'm only seeing the same things as everybody else, vibes I kind of get is I'd be really surprised if we saw him again this season because it's not getting mentioned. If he was close, if he was on the grass, if he was getting ready, it's a good news story. It's kind of not really being asked. I've not been told not to ask it. I just obviously haven't been involved in some of the interviews, etc. And I just think there's a feeling that, well, let's try and get through to the point where hopefully we've got enough points and then you can say this is the situation or that's the situation. Might be wrong. I don't know anything. But that's just kind of the vibes that we get. Right. This is the bit of the podcast I've been really looking forward to. And we've won 3-1. We're top of the league. We're 15 points clear of Bolton. But this is the bit of the podcast I've been really looking forward to. And I'm going to give a tiny little bit of context first. At the beginning of this season, every summer I kind of get a little bit into TikTok. I do short things about teams that I like, teams that I don't like. It's only ever because I can do a dog walk nearly every day in the summer because the weather's nice and it's dry and there's not a lot of wind. But I did one about Huddersfield, saying they're a team I dislike. And they are a team I dislike for so many reasons. Like, goes all the way back to the Pavel Abbott offside. Everyone will remember that. The golden goal in the AWS, the first golden goal ever to knock a team out of a cup competition in England. They got it against us. For taking Danny Cowley, for taking Gary Taylor-Fletcher, for taking Harry Toffolo, for taking Lasse Sorensen, for taking Sean Rowan. Like, there's a million and one reasons why I don't like them for what they've done to Lincoln. But I also don't like them for what they've done to League One. They've come down. They spend a load of money with a manager. He buys a load of players in. There's no coherent strategy. They just seem to buy the big names. Freddie Ladapo, the next manager, comes in. He doesn't want the big names. So the big name sits there festering away on big wages that have inflated the rest of the division's wages. And the next manager comes in and he buys a load of players. Then he moves on. The next one comes in. And it's almost like that drawing of a horse, kind of where it's half decent at the beginning and then it goes off. It's like a building that's been half built by someone, then someone else and someone else. It's just a mess. Like, everything they do is a mess, in my opinion. They signed Dion Charles, not because Dion Charles fits in with what they want to do, because he scores goals at that level. They signed Alfie May for the same. They signed Joe Taylor for the same. It's just mind-blowing. And I don't like them. And I did it on TikTok and I got pelters from their fans. Like, because they'd spent all this money again, and I predicted that Lee Grant had be gone by Christmas, and I predicted that they wouldn't win the league. And then Chris changed my bloody mind with all of his stats and all of his research, and I put them down as in my pre-season thing as going up automatically against my better judgment. And they're not going up automatically. And I hope that their fans are watching this. The ones that were arrogant enough on TikTok to sort of be like, who are Lincoln City? And you should be embarrassed and you should be ashamed because your club has spent 3 times what my club has spent and you're still shit.
Yeah, firstly, apology. I was very, very wrong. I'll be honest with you, guys. I also don't like Huddersfield Town. Nothing against the people of Huddersfield. I just don't like the football club. And it's not just because of what they've done to us in the past, though obviously that doesn't help. It's because they're kind of the opposite of us in every way, aren't they? And I think, we mentioned that there was some chants at Port Vale away yesterday that you're not fit to wear the shirt. And it wasn't a quiet chant. It was the majority of the fans that were left in the away end. Didn't even lose, by the way. Port Vale are actually decent right now. And I was watching some of the game highlights from the games that they played under Liam. Is it Liam or Ryan Manning? I keep getting them mixed up. Thank you, Liam Manning. In the last 10 matches. And there was a match against Rotherham at home, which they won, by the way, where Murray Wallace was driving with the ball central and he has a shot on target from 25 yards. Cue, not just a few, incredibly loud, ironic cheers from a huge part of the fan base. But I honestly think that's a symptom of how the club has been ran. It's not the fans' fault as such. I just think it rubs off on them. If you conduct yourself with such a impatient, short-term mentality, it's building a house on sand, isn't it? And it would be really embarrassing for Huddersfield Town if this is the season where Lincoln City with an 18th budget in League One gets promoted and Huddersfield Town with one of the highest budgets don't. But you know what it'll be, Gary? More than anything, it will be funny.
Yeah.
It will be really funny. And I'm sorry, Huddersfield fans, but I can't help but really enjoy your stumbling. I can't help it. And I don't say that about every single club. We're generally pretty balanced here. So you must be pretty special for us to openly dislike you.
Agree.
It's not going to be an easy game on Tuesday, by the way, but I just don't like them, Gaz. I'm with you. And yeah, I have to admit, there's a bit of Schadenfreude. I'm really enjoying them stumbling, particularly when we're doing so well. And they're stumbling by doing the opposite of what we are. And yeah, it just goes to show that you can do it without having to throw silly money at it. You can do it by having patience and faith in players and management. They just don't have that. And it all stems from the top for me.
And the worst thing about all of this is that I'm saying I was right about Lee Grant, and I actually think he was doing a better job than I imagined he would. And I just want to read, before we go into the nuts and bolts of the game, because you've done some prep, I want to read something which I think he posted on LinkedIn, maybe.
Yep, correct.
Which you sent me earlier. I had seen them, but he's brilliant. So this is Lee Grant after he was sacked. Obviously, I've experienced the full raft of emotions over the last few weeks. It's important to recognise the excellent work that has taken place and was ongoing. Yes, we were in the top 6 league positions, 10 points from automatic. Yes, we were top scorers in League One. Yes, we were top of the set piece chart. Yes, we were in the quarterfinals of the Football League trophy. 3rd in the race for the most clean sheets. Proven development of players. Castledine sold for more than $1 million, although he wasn't theirs. Ashia, Radulovic, etc. Debuts for Ashia, Vost, Sway, Mariso, and cup victories against Premier League and Championship opposition. Like, for any other League One club, even for a Stockport, you could even argue for a Bolton. Imagine sacking a manager with that. Imagine not just saying, like, if he gets to the playoffs, he might win the playoffs and might get in the Championship. You just give him the season. Look what happened with Oxford, with Indian Des Buckingham. Like, he got the season. They snuck into the playoffs. They got old Charlton, Nathan Jones. There was talk about them getting rid of him. They kept with him. They were a little bit off the playoffs. What happened? They got into the playoffs. Instead, it's out with the old, in with the new, and they just do that all the time. It's out with Michael Duff, in with John Worthington, out with John Worthington, in, and I don't even know if that's the right way. They've had more managers in the past 10 years than I've had days off sick. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I've had a few days off sick.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, we've got a game to play.
We've got a game. Yeah, go on.
It's not going to be easy. But I think the Lee Grant made some very valid points there. Like they were the top goal scorers in the league since, and his record had them 6th. They're actually 7th on points per game, I think. But they were in a good spot. Scored the most goals in the league. As I mentioned, they were actually performing pretty well from set pieces, which is, as we know, a really valuable part of the game. Since then, under Liam Manning, bloody hell, is it right? Which one is it?
It's Liam. It's Liam
Thank
Manning.
you.
It's Liam
Manning. Ryan Manning's a left back. For God's sake.
Yes, he is. Ryan Manning still plays for Southampton.
I'll just say Manning, and then everyone else knows who I mean. We've all got our little blind spots, haven't we? But yeah, since Manning came in, they're actually still in 6th position, exactly where they were when Lee Grant left. Played 10 games under Manning, won 5 of them, drew 2, lost 3. 1.7 PPG actually is slightly higher than they were getting, 5th best in the league. But they're not very happy about it. And there are some interesting reasons, I think, as to why. Because of those 10 games, they've only scored 10 goals, conceded 8. So plus 2 goal difference, that's all. But that's averaging a goal a game. Someone who they signed for a lot of money not too long ago in Joe Taylor, in his last 10 games, on his own, for a struggling Wigan team, has scored 7. And Huddersfield have only scored 10 in 10 games. Over the last 7 matches, though, only won 2. So Manning won his first 3 games, 1-0, 1-0, Bradford and Luton at home, and then 3-2 away at Peterborough. Since then, lost, won, drew. Off what is apparently the 4th easiest run of fixtures in that last 6 games. According to opposition points per game at the point that they played them. So they have got a real issue now at creating clear-cut chances. And they didn't have that issue under Lee Grant. They actually are joint with us at League One for most goals scored from fast breaks. They were really good. They had some dynamism and some directness to their attacks. In the 10 goals that they've scored under Manning, 1 was a freak from a halfway line. 1 was a counter-attack, 1 was a fast break, and 8 of them were just crosses and finishes in various ways of doing it. So, yeah, I don't agree with Huddersfield fans being incredibly against the players and saying you're not fit to wear the shirt off the back of not even losing a game, only conceding 8 goals in 10 games, still clinging on to the playoff positions. But in terms of those underlying numbers from an attacking point of view, which you'd expect a team pushing for promotion should be good at attacking, they have taken a bit of a step back. So it's difficult to get behind a new manager and have a new manager bounce, I think, when that's happening. So I think there's always context there. But from a Lincoln point of view, it's going to be difficult to break them down. But if you're a team that's good at defending your box, you can defend set plays, you can defend crosses and win first contacts, which we're generally pretty good at. It's unlikely that Huddersfield are going to trouble us consistently from high percentage areas from the centre of the pitch. So, yeah, it's weird because I like not liking Huddersfield, but I can kind of partly understand the frustration. But like we said earlier, it's probably a symptom of the environment, maybe, the culture that's set from the top.
I don't like them. Do you know what? I actually kind of like not liking some teams in that, you know, like when you have a rivalry, you kind of like a team because you don't like them. Not, does that make sense? Not like an absolute dislike, but it's like, oh God, we're playing such and such again because they always beat us. And you don't have anything fundamentally wrong with them, but you would. Sport is all about heroes and villains. Sport's a pantomime. Pantomime's heroes and villains. You've got to have villains in order to, know who the heroes are. You've got to have villains in order to make matches mean anything. Otherwise, it's just 46 games. It's like henchmen in an Austin Powers movie, just one after the other coming. You've got to have something that sits them above henchmen and makes them Goldfinger or Blofeld or whatever. You've got to have that. Like Steve Evans is brilliant for Lincoln City because it's great to have that. But it's actually a deep-seated dislike of the way Huddersfield have been run post-Cowley, if I'm honest. And maybe it's kind of what happened with Dan and Nick when they went there. But it's like up until then, it was just I really like not liking Huddersfield because they always do us. I love that. I love the fact that they've taken our players deep down because it makes you want to go, yeah, let's go out and get them. This one matters more than Bolton, for instance. And Gerard says, would I prefer Bolton to go up over Huddersfield all day long and twice on Sunday? Yeah, all day long. I would prefer Grimsby Town to go up over Huddersfield, over this version of Huddersfield. Personally, I would. And nearly anybody. I don't think there's probably only like Fleetwood and Salford and teams like that I wouldn't rather go up over Huddersfield. And do you know what? It's not even a slur on their fans. because their fans are just like us. Their podcasters are just like us. They're just fans that want their team to do well, but they haven't been gifted the opportunities that our fans have to get behind a team that's well run from top to bottom, that's got a coherent plan, that doesn't just sack managers. I mean, we gave, like, some people think we gave Michael Skubala some clubs might have sacked him at one point, been utterly crazy, but there were some of our supporters were saying Skubala out, who, by the way, I want to see a line from Sinsel Bank going up Scorer Street, if we do get promoted, of people that said Skubala out or another Jez George masterclass. I want to see a line waiting to go in one by one and apologise to everybody at the club personally. So, majority of Huddersfield fans only want a football team to support who do well like we do. But I just think that, for me, Huddersfield epitomise the Huddersfield now, the way they're run and the way that they sack managers left, right and centre, they epitomise everything that's wrong with the modern game, just like Watford do, just like, to a degree, Barrow do in League Two. There's 3 teams there, Watford, Huddersfield, Barrow, that are the stain on the tablecloth. They're the ones that you look at and just go, when everyone else in the EFL, there's 18 teams in the EFL have voted for the wage cap, haven't they? It'd be interesting to know which way Huddersfield have voted.
I think we can only guess, can't we?
I'm not going to guess because I don't want to be proven wrong.
Exactly, same. I won't say it out loud. But it's, you're right, because the fans are just like us. Of course they are. They've had their day in the sun, haven't they? They got to go and play in the Premier League for a bit. But I think the one thing that we have that they don't, it's just that the fans turning, the ironic cheers, the chance of you're not fit to wear the shirt, that comes from a lack of connection between fan base and football club, whether that be team. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's the whole club, and it's just the team that are the face of it, really, that are getting the frustration. I don't really feel that it's the players themselves that really have are the real. They're the brunt of it, but I don't know if they really are the direction of it, if that makes sense. And something you actually put an article out about this, and it really resonated with me, is that something that Michael Skubala said when he first came to the club about, before we practice, we preach anything about getting in the Championship and being successful. We just want to have a team to be proud of. And then Jez mentioned it, I think, in the fans forum recently, about one thing that we absolutely have is an identity that that represents the people of Lincoln. And so we have a team that we can identify with, that we feel represents us, and that gets you something, doesn't it? That gives you a round of applause when some teams would boo. That gives you a little bit of patience. That gives you that belief that you can still get yourself out of trouble. That gives you that belief that you can start games quickly. That helps you have that connection with a club, with a group of players that's just missing at Huddersfield. It's not the fans' fault. It stems from that culture and that lack of connection. We're very lucky to have it. We need to keep hold of it for as long as we possibly can. But I just don't think Huddersfield town fans have a football club that they can be proud of at the moment, and that's not their fault. They've been sold kind of false promises, really, haven't they? And we've been given the opposite of that. So we're very, very lucky. They're suffering a little bit for it, but if we can start the game quickly on Tuesday night, score an early goal, it could be that could go in our favour a little bit in terms of the fans turning on the team a little bit as well.
Indeed. Very quickly, if anybody fancies giving me a lift, actually it's too late now, because I've said I won't go to in media, but unfortunately I've got car issues, so it looks like I might be stuck watching at home, which is a real shame. One last thing to pick up on, we haven't really mentioned it, but I think it's just worth picking up on right at the end here. 20 games unbeaten, club record. So what's that?
How have we not mentioned that yet?
140 years of Lincoln City history has fallen this season under Michael Skubala. And I mean, in terms of winning as well, it's just unbelievable. It's just utterly what we've done is utterly ridiculous. I remember going to the I think it was the Port Vale game, which was the one that started the run, wasn't it? And then I think we then lose against Huddersfield in the cup, and the next one was Barnsley, I think, at home on the Tuesday night. And I remember there was comments online about some people weren't going to the game through for whatever reason, and there was just this whole it was almost like there was a malaise, and we were already started the 20-game unbeaten league run at that stage. But even I remember going out to Salford in the cup, and then Huddersfield, and you just kind of thought, it just feels like that bubble's burst. We thought we were good, and are we? But if you actually write the cup games off, I mean, to be fair, we should have beaten Salford anyway. But yeah, just unbelievable. 20. I mean, this is arguably the best Lincoln City team ever.
I think it has to be up there, doesn't it? And it's not just 20 games unbeaten, it's winning 16 of them. And isn't it funny that no one likes going out the FA Cup, but losing that game to Salford was a bit of a blessing in disguise, wasn't it? To allow us to have that little bit of a break to reset and then just attack that run of games, which, my God, did we attack? And here we are now, 80 points before Easter. Incredible. Absolutely.
We only
incredible.
got 85 when we won League Two. 85. Or what I will say, when I say the best Lincoln City team ever, nobody can say that, certainly, because all context is different. Like Colin Murphy's side of the early 80s may not have been promoted from Division 3 to Division 2, but they existed on a squad of about 15. Graham Taylor's team, 75, 76, were playing games on back-to-back days. So it's a very different game now. So certainly in the modern era, this is the best Lincoln City team. It's the best Lincoln City team of my lifetime. And that's not taking anything away from the National League team and what they achieved, because you had to win the title. We had to do the FA Cup run. So, yeah. Right. I think that's enough, because I've needed the toilet for the last 10 minutes and we are not.
Just realised we haven't really talked about what the game might look like on Tuesday night. I'll leave that in my notebook.
Well, if you want to do a little video separately, I'll set you up a thing and you can do it on your own. All that. I feel bad. All that preparation.
But it's fine. I quite enjoyed just poking fun at Huddersfield a little bit, but there were some serious elements to that. I suppose in terms of Tuesday, they're not necessarily brilliant going forward. Yeah, I know. I'll keep talking for ages now. But they're genuinely really good defensively. So it's going to be a real tight game. So they'll play back three. They'll be tight, hard to break down. But if we keep them at arm's length, we might even be able to get to 21 games unbeaten. Wouldn't that be nice?
Brilliant. Do you know what? That's the best you've ever been on the podcast.
Thank you.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, episode 455 of the Stacey West podcast was a very light-hearted podcast, but it's going to be. We've won games, loads of them. We've gone unbeaten for games, loads of them. We're going to Huddersfield, so far ahead of them that they can barely see us. It's all primed for them to beat us, says the pessimist, but the optimist says it could be wrapped up, done and dusted by Easter. We could be tucking in to those chocolate eggs, looking forward to a trip to West Ham, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham Hotspur, Leeds. Delete as applicable in the meantime, as you all know, and as many of you join in with, and as I will build up a little bit here like this. Ooh, there's only one thing left to say now, and it is up the imps.
Up the imps.